Hello, this is Adam with DreamMade Productions. This video is made possible by the very kind donations of viewers like you. Thank you. If you are in a position to help this channel improve quality and grow, please visit my Patreon page at www.patreon.com/DreamMadeProductions, linked below.
It is the 31st century, and mankind is once again at war. The battlefields of the future are dominated by huge robotic war machines known as battlemechs.
Hello. With the overwhelming success of the BattleTech Mercenaries Kickstarter, and all the new minis that have been announced, I thought it would be fun to look over the minis I have with me here to film. Like a number of people, I keep my minis in these cheap but effective tackle trays. As I've mentioned several times on my channel, I have several more trays along with what box sets and books I have left still in storage. The good news is some I now know exactly where they are, safe and sound in a closet. Sadly, others are still MIA. While we wait on all the goodies from Catalyst's latest Kickstarter, please join me as I give you a little tour of my BattleTech toys and my unscripted thoughts on them. Hello! Last time we looked at my lights box, so today I figured we'd go through my mediums. Let's take a look. First up, we have a cicada. Actually, a trio of cicadas. My one example here is from the original Catalyst box. Won't go over this every time in this video, but no number on the bottom and a textured hex top. Whereas the later Catalyst box sets, they were numbered on the bottom and it was smooth. This is another one where you can see some step up in detail. The camera will focus there, we go. A little bit more detail on the arms and the mold lines, clearly better on the newer cicada. The mold lines on this older cicada are pretty bad. Not that they couldn't be fixed and that this wasn't useful to throw down on the tabletop, but in this one the increase in quality is pretty noticeable. As far as the cicada itself, I can't say I throw this thing down very much. It's just too heavy for what it wants to be. It doesn't really have the firepower to be really dangerous to anything its size, or really to be very dangerous to anything lighter than itself. The PPC version is a little better. You've got the speed to kind of stay away and pepper, somebody with PPCs with support. But as far as the regular version, I don't throw the cicada down very much, and I don't think it would be my first choice in almost any engagement. There are just other mechs that do its job much better. Alright, got a Hermes 2 here. Another kind of mediocre mech. Again, not one of my first choices, though I only have the old style Catalyst Mini here. I don't actually have one of the updated versions. So the Mini is good. It's still pretty detailed. Few little minor flaws on it. As far as, like I said, putting it on the tabletop, not really my first choice. It has a pretty good weapon mix, especially with that flamer. If you ever run in infantry, you'll learn to appreciate a flamer pretty quickly. But as far as your typical game, it's really kind of specialized. It can be dangerous to mechs lighter than itself, but at its own tonnage and heavier, it really struggles to be relevant. So, kind of hard to say, but definitely lower tier for this one. Got a Whitworth here. This is started off as a mech that I liked a lot, and it still kind of is. The two LRM-10s are okay, but kind of lack that knockout punch that's needed to really be a good support mech. And its kind of lightness holds it back. I do like fielding the SRM version, especially with Infernos. That is a Maris design. As far as the mini itself, again, this is the older Catalyst mini that came with the older box sets. I don't have an updated version of this one. All in all, a decent support mech, but you could do, I'd rather have a lighter mech, sacrifice some tonnage and have a lighter mech and a more robust missile carrier in most circumstances. Not always, but most. Next, I have a trio of Clints. That big old gun on the arm. In this instance, I have one of the older Clints, and two of the newer ones. This one is another one that enjoyed a little bit better detail in its step up from quality. There's more detail, technical detail on the legs. The mold lines are a lot cleaner. As you can see, the head has a lot less fragments on it. The chest just has cleaner detail. This one had, like I said, enjoyed some step up in quality. As far as the Clint as a mech, I don't use it that much. The classic Clint is okay. The AC5 just lacks the real stopping power that's needed. Stepping it up to the AC10 version is nice, though you are losing some for that. One version that I found that I actually surprised me that I actually really liked was the AC2 version. Having those dual AC2s really gives you the ability to just kind of sit back in the back and plug away, and because you're a Clint shooting AC2s, a lot of players tend to just kind of ignore you, and believe it or not, those AC2s can add up over, say, 8, 9, 10 turns if you just keep hitting with them. Or if you're sniping off a lighter, like a Locust or something, even a Locust is going to notice a couple AC2 hits. So, kind of situational. Like I said, not a real big fan of the original, so I don't throw this down as much as I really should, especially as a Davian player. But the mini's nice, and the step up in detail is pretty noticeable. Next, I have my favorite whipping boy, 2 Vulcans. These came in one of the Lance packs, the original Catalyst Alpha Strike Lance packs, so there is no older version of them. The detail on the miniature is really good. As much as I dislike this mech, they did a good job with its sculpting and detail and all the little technical details and holes and everything that's in it. As far as the mech itself, like I said, this is my favorite whipping boy. Part of that is just in good fun. I've said it before and I stand by it that there are no bad mechs. There are certainly mechs that are better than others. But this is one that I really struggle with finding a good place for. It is pretty decent at dealing with infantry with its machine gun and flamer, but with its AC2 and medium laser, it really struggles at being a danger to mechs in particular, and even really vehicles. Other than the lightest of vehicles. I think they would have been better off if they would have focused more on one task, because you have much better ways of dealing with infantry and much better ways of dealing with mechs. So, like I said, it definitely has its usage. If you suspect that you're going to be going up against a mixed force, you could do a much worse job than picking a Vulcan. But in my opinion, you could do a better job. So, kind of to each their own. Like I said, it's kind of a shame because I really actually like the look of the mech. It's just on the tabletop, I've never had one of these things really work out in my favor. Hopefully one day, though. I'll throw one down again at some point. Next, I have an Scout. This one is completely unofficial. It's made of some kind of plastic or resin. Not quite sure where I got this. Probably a flea market. I got a bunch of stuff at flea markets when I first started collecting. As far as the mech itself, you can see there's a lot of mold lines in it, some defects in the casting process, but all in all, not bad, I guess. Certainly not even up to the quality of the early Catalyst plastic mechs, but still serviceable on the tabletop, looks okay. As far as the Scout itself, this thing really struggles. With just one medium laser, it is not much of a threat to anybody. This thing is actually excellent, though, when you're playing with some kind of objectives. If you're going to scan something or get to something, pick up a person or something like that. If you have some kind of mission that you're going on, that can make this thing much more useful. It's kind of spotter role that I see a lot of people say it's good at. I disagree. It doesn't have the armor to move in and sit there and spot. If it's moving, you're going to give all kinds of negatives to the attacking unit. If you're jumping and running and stuff like you're going to have to do with this thing. I do think that if they had taken the medium laser out and put a flamer in and a small laser, it could be much better. Sacrifice a little bit of armor so you do have a small laser there, or maybe just the flamer so that you can, your primary job is going to be running around probably kicking anyway. I really struggle with a way to make this thing better in combat because it's just not designed for that. All in all, I do like the kind of egg mechs. There's just something about them that I enjoy, and this one's no different. I'm glad I have it. Maybe one day I'll have a better, more professional version of it. All right, next up, I have a blackjack. In fact, I'm fortunate enough that I have an entire lance of blackjacks. I do enjoy my AC2s. Now, the model on this one is from the FASA Plastech set. For something that was done in the 80s, it was actually done pretty well. There is some detail on it, but they made some strange choices with this particular blackjack. I do like it, but the arms are very different. The left arm has one pretty big gun-looking thing on it, and is smooth going down the side, which I'm assuming that's supposed to be the AC2 and laser. But on the other arm, it's got like two small divots like guns and a small barrel, almost like a trio. So very strange. I do like this blackjack. It has sort of a more dynamic pose with its arm being up, and it looks like it's kind of walking forward than the old metal one. I don't have one of those, but I've seen them enough. As far as the blackjack itself, a lot of people will crap on the blackjack. I actually like the blackjack. Those two AC2s can really add up over time, especially, they can be crippling to a bunch of light mechs. Hard to deal with, since you can flip arms, and those 4 medium lasers, I mean, that makes you dangerous even up to heavy mechs if they get close to you and can't really deal with you right away. So yeah, I'm actually a big fan of the blackjack, and you'll see these down in my lances pretty often. Next up, I have a pair of blackjacks. That's right. I am so much of a blackjack fan that I can field a lance and a half of nothing but blackjacks. Now, these are the recent Catalyst redesigns. There's the 2 variants, the classic blackjack, and then the missile variant that I believe this came with. I believe it came with the Alpha Strike box set. Definitely a step up in detail compared to the old FASA Plastech mechs. Its scale is bigger. Not by a whole lot, but definitely blockier and beefier. Again, another dynamic pose with a torso twisting. My personal feeling is I think all mechs should be faced front. It makes determining facing much easier. Particularly at just a glance. It's not that big of a deal, just a personal preference. But it's hard to argue that having a torso twist or something, it does add some flair to it. And it's hard to overstate the step up in detail in the redesign. I still think that I prefer the older design just a little bit more, something about that kind of beak head over this more blocky version, but that's probably just my nostalgia talking. I played with these plastic blackjacks for a long time before I ever got my hands on the redesign. But again, those AC2s can really add up, and the medium lasers does make it threatening to even larger mechs, so I wouldn't have this many if I didn't think it was a great mech. Next up, I have a Hatchet Man. This is another one from the original Catalyst Lance packs. It did not have one of the older ones. Has a lot of nice technical detail. Very nice to put on the tabletop. Number 31 there. Gotta say, the old Hatchet Man has grown on me some. It is still not my first choice for a mech its size, but it is an interesting idea. The hatchet really adds something to it, makes it very distinct. I don't think it's as useful for its tonnage, but then again, it can be devastating when it's used, particularly against lighter mechs, and even some heavier mechs. You can definitely tell they were experimenting at the time, trying to discover new ways of doing things in the Secession Wars. And then as time went on with the Axeman and the introduction of triple strength Myomer, it becomes much more useful. Still, it's a good mech and one that I don't see a lot of people put down. That asymmetrical head is very distinct and interesting, and does look like it's some kind of creepy, almost lizard-looking face looking at you. It's definitely an interesting mech. I love the model, and I do try to throw this down from time to time. Next up, I have a Phoenix Hawk, and I have several Phoenix Hawks. Several Phoenix Hawks. As you can see, 3 of them are unseen, and the new Catalyst redesign. This is a metal one. I've had this one for a very long time. I don't remember where I got it from. The bottom of it's kind of smooth, so I don't know if this is legit or not. I have no idea. There are some minor little things on there. Some of it's my fault, like getting all this super glue gunk on the front of it at some point. This is definitely one that I've had since I was a kid, so I don't even remember where this thing came from. But definitely it's got some pretty decent detail on it. This one I'm pretty sure is something someone made. It's some kind of plastic or resin that I glued to this hex base a long time ago. It's been broken at several points when I've played with it, and I've had to glue it back together. Detail on it's pretty good, actually, for something that is probably made in someone's garage or something. Still pretty good to have on the tabletop, and with it being a fairly light plastic resin, whatever, on a metal base that I put it on, it stays up pretty well. Next, I have this example. This is the Phoenix Hawk that came with the 3rd edition FASA set. As you can tell, it's pretty much just a straight copy of the metal. A lot of good detail on it again. Very good mech for a plastic mech from the 80s. And then we have the Catalyst redesign. I can see where they were going with this. It has the same basic idea, with it being, of course, bigger and blockier. Still has the jump pack on the back, although not as pronounced. So, I can say definitely I like the older version better. The Phoenix Hawk is an excellent mech. It is one of my favorite mechs of all time. You can put this down. It is useful in almost any situation. Its speed can help keep it alive and move across the map. It has decent firepower for a mech its size. That large laser for its time period can really hurt. It's got the mediums for backup. It's got the machine guns that can help deal with infantry. Sometimes you'll, drop the machine guns for more heat sinks or other weapons loadout. I have seen people that have pretty much taken everything else off and just have a PPC as their one and only weapon and move this thing around, constantly taking pot shots at you. Just, this mech is just a wonderful mech, and I love throwing it down. I actually have to stop myself from using it more because, I want to explore more possibilities. And this would be a mech that I would just play almost constantly if I didn't take efforts to put something else in. All in all, it is nice to have a whole lance of nothing but Phoenix Hawks. That way people have a chance to play with me. And even though this guy falls down a lot, so I don't really use him, but still having 3 perfectly useful examples gives some variety to myself and lets other people give it a try if I have people borrowing my stuff. Alright, next up, I have a Vindicator. In fact, 3 Vindicators. This is an instance where I have one of the new Catalyst ones from the newer box sets, and 2 of the older Vindicators. This one was another one that saw some more detail in its release. You can especially see it there on the leg. There's more paneling, more detail, cleaner chest, cleaner head. Mostly a better design. This is one where I do say it is somewhat up in the air, because even though you're getting a cleaner model here with better detail, one advantage that the old Catalyst Mini had was that its arms pegged on. It's glued on right now, but if I can pull it free a little bit, there you go. It was a peg that went on, and it did it on both arms, so you could reposition the arms. Now, they wouldn't stay. There wasn't enough friction or tension there to keep it on, so you have to glue them. But it did let you raise the arm, lower the gun arm, do different poses with the arms, which was very, very nice. I do believe originally out of the box it came with like the gun up in the air, and everybody that I knew immediately like took the glue off and reposed it down here and re-glued it. Yeah, in this instance, you gained more detail, but the newer Catalyst version is straight up one piece. You're not getting this off unless you physically cut it off. Whereas the old one, you did have some posing options. I would have liked to have seen them kept that, because you could raise an arm or something. That way it was easier to keep track of which one was which one. Plus you could point the PPC directly ahead, aiming at something, whereas what the hell is this? Like, seriously, Catalyst, what's he aiming at? He's boom, he hits the ground. Like, that's terrible. But still a good mini to have. One of the rare instances where I think the reposability is worth just a little bit more to me, since the decline in detail is not horrible. So kind of hard to say. I think I do prefer it just a little bit better, but not that much. I'm still pretty happy with this one. All in all, I do like the Vindicator. That PPC gives it a lot of versatility, along with the LRM5 to kind of pluck away at people at range, still having a medium and small laser for kind of up close defense. I would have liked to see, of course, some kind of way of dealing with infantry, maybe sacrificing a little bit of armor off the legs or something, and having a flamer instead of the small laser, but all in all, you could do much worse, and I do tend to throw these down quite a bit. So yeah, Vindicator, great mech, pretty good design, decent mini no matter which way you go. If you go with the older sets, you get more posability. If you go with the newer set, you get cleaner, better detail. Next up, I have some Centurions. These particular Centurions are from the Catalyst Alpha Strike Lance packs, and to go with them, I have some Centurions from the City Tech FASA set, and I have this poor individual, which we won't linger on very much, who is one that I think I bought for like $1 because his arm was missing. Didn't paint this, can't say that I used this particular one very much because I think a dog or something got a hold of it. It's got what appear to be teeth marks in it. So yeah, I don't know if I overpaid at $1, but at the time I only had like one Centurion and it was a chance to buy a mech for $1, so I jumped at it. So we will go ahead and put him back in the box. Just don't let your pets get a hold of your minis, apparently. But the Centurion model's very good. This is an instance where you can kind of see the difference in scale. Different poses, which is good. Got a really long arm here. I can't say which one I like better. They're both pretty good. They're both really good representations of the Centurion. That AC-10, the LRM-10, the medium lasers. A very decent kind of all-around mech. You can babysit a missile boat with that AC-10. You got the medium laser front and back. So even getting behind you isn't gonna, necessarily protect you. You've got the LRM there to just kind of plug away at people or add some more missiles to that, volley of missiles going out from the LRM carriers. It's not my favorite 50-ton mech. I think there are better ones, but as a classic and as somebody who watched the old cartoon, it's kind of hard to beat. And both examples have really good detail, especially the FASA one for its time period. It has a lot of really good detail work on it. So, yeah, really impressed with both of them. You really can't go wrong. Next up, I have an Enforcer. Now, this is actually the mech that I would take over the Centurion. I only have this one example, though. This is from the older Catalyst releases. Not the best detailed, but not the worst either. You have some mold lines in there, some kind of worn, not so great detail, but still, to throw down on the board, perfectly serviceable. I do not have a newer version of this, but I have seen the newer versions. They do have much better detail on them. As far as the Enforcer itself, it is probably one of my favorite 50-ton mechs. That autocannon and large laser is a mean combo. You can really rack up some damage with that. You do sacrifice the LRM-10, so you can't really add to the missile barrage, but that's okay. You can sort of do it with the large laser. It will hit almost as far as those LRMs, particularly if they're shooting at medium range. You can take some long-range shots, and it does some damage. The same thing with the AC-10. It can really reach out and hurt. And with the large laser not having the ammo to worry about, if you're standing there on babysit duty and you even, you know, have a 12, you can just roll the dice and hope for the best and not have to worry about it, you know, running out of ammo for your autocannon like the Centurion does. So, yeah, this is actually one of my favorite babysitters to put with missile boats, and all in all, a really good mech, and I'm looking forward to at some point having some more of these. Next up, I have a pair of the big boys. I have some Hunchbacks. Now, this one is from the older Catalyst box sets. It is a very good Hunchback. This Hunchback is from the Plastech set, the FASA Plastech set. All in all, they're both really, really good. For some reason, on the Plastech one, the arm isn't missing. This is literally the way they came. I've seen other examples of this. In fact, I have some more examples in storage somewhere. And they are all, as far as I've seen, end in two lasers or something in the arm here. They don't have the hands. So it was a very strange decision to do it that way. The gun is also much smaller. So I tend to use this one for variants, you know, if it has the AC-10 version or something, whereas this one is your classic AC-20. That looks like an AC-20. I mean, oh my God. Get hit with that on a 50-ton mech. I mean, that's going to blow your whole chest out, it looks like. That. Imagine the shells that are coming out of that thing. So, you know, the minis are pretty good. A lot of detail, especially for the time period on the FASA Plastech one, with a few little molding issues on it. Pretty good detail on the old FASA design. Again, a little bit of flash on it, a few little molding details, but definitely one of the more detailed of the older, before the better versions that came out before the remakes. One thing I have seen a lot of is that there is usually a lot of flash right here where the arm connects to the AC-20. I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but one of the things I did was I went in and cut that flash out. So that was definitely one of the issues they had. This was gunked up, and almost every example I've seen has had like a little thing of gunk right here where there's excess plastic. But a little cleaning up helps that. I'm sure, I know I have a newer version of the Hunchback from the newer box sets, the Step Up in Quality box sets somewhere. Just don't have it with me for my gaming mechs, but I'm sure it came up some. One of the things I did notice is that the legs are really thin. I mean, they're thick down here at the bottom, but the upper leg is like really, really thin. Like you would think that there's like no armor on these legs, and that's not the case. I mean, on the older Plastech mechs, they're beefy legs. They're like what you would expect to match kind of the bottom legs with. Now, the knee joints look a little weak, but I mean, they look weak here too, and just wow, Catalyst, what the heck? What happened to his legs, man? And it's not a mistake, because there's detailing on both sides, so that was an intention to make the leg that thin. These little paper upper legs. Aside from that, really happy with the minis, and the Hunchback is, I mean, it's the Hunchback. What can you say? Anytime somebody throws a Hunchback on the table, you're going to take notice. That whether it's the AC-20 or that bank of medium lasers, it's a Hunchback just draws fire, because it's particularly the AC-20 mechs. It's a threat to anything. An AC-20 is a threat to a clan mech. It can end a game really easy. It's always got that chance of just head hit, you're dead. and no one can take a pounding from an AC-20 for very long. No clan mech, nothing can take round after round of AC-20 fire. So it's just infinitely useful. You can just throw it down and it's going to grab somebody's, even if it doesn't do anything but draw fire from your other units because they're afraid of it, it can let your other units go do their job. If that's nothing else. And at best, it can be an absolute game winner because it walks up and takes out their biggest, baddest mech in one shot. I mean, potentially. So, yeah, I love the Hunchback. It's one of my first choices on babysitter duty for LRM carriers because then almost no matter what you do, there's a problem. If you get into their minimum range, well, guess what? Now you got an AC-20 pointed at you. So on its own, unsupported, it's iffy. But when used correctly, man, the Hunchback can be a game changer. And the mechs, I mean, the minis are just awesome too. It's hard to argue with just how cool these minis are. Except his little paper legs. Next up, I have some trebuchets. Tree buckets, as they're affectionately called. I have one example of the older Catalyst box sets. I have one example of the newer Catalyst box sets, the better detail. And I have the old Plastech version of the trebuchet. As far as the minis, hard to argue with the trebuchet. It looks good. The step up in detail is kind of noticeable, mostly just for cleaner lines. You can see there's some flash and stuff on there. Some molding issues on the older one that the newer one just doesn't have. Not so bad that it's not playable or anything. You can still throw it down and have a great time with it. But it is definitely noticeable, especially if you're really looking at it. The old Plastech version is actually more dynamic. These guys are just kind of standing there, whereas this one, he's walking. Now he's got a stride going on there. I do think that the old Plastech one kind of, it doesn't look like he has an LRM-15 in his arm. In fact, even the newer one, it doesn't look like he has an LRM-15. It looks like he has an LRM-5 or something. But, there's only so much you can do with these older designs. With this one, it's hard to say. I like the more dynamic pose a little better. But the newer one just kind of looks better. So I think I prefer the newer one just a little bit more than the older Plastech one. You can tell, again, that the scale is a little off, that the scale has changed. He's definitely a little beefier than the newer version. So I think he fits in with the newer scale that they're going with better than these old Catalyst ones. But still, it's not so much out that you don't get the idea. As far as the trebuchet itself, good mech, a little short on the heat sinks, but having the choice of lobbing down LRM-15s or switching to the medium lasers if they happen to get close, so you're not helpless. Decent moving speed. It's a good mech. I don't play them enough. I tend to step up to a catapult or something if I'm going to go with an LRM carrier. The asymmetrical design just bothers me for some reason, with one of the missile launchers being in the arm and one being in the torso. Strange choice, but whatever. Military designs are sometimes odd, but all in all, a decent long-range support mech, and can still be dangerous up close. Just kind of be a little careful with your weapons fire not to overheat. last but not least, I have here a griffin. This is, of course, from the new Catalyst set, from the redesign. I do have Unseen Griffin somewhere, but this one is from the newer Catalyst set. Great design, lots of detail on it. I like how they really kept the feel of it with his his little pistol from the Unseen design. They kind of expanded that out to make it look more like a PPC. He's still got the missile rack there. This thing is quick. It has enough firepower between the missiles and the PPC to really hurt somebody. It's got some versatility there because, it can call in indirect fire. It can stay back and really punch you with both weapons. It is a little weak that it doesn't have any kind of backup weapon. If you get up on this thing, both of its weapons have a minimum range, but you're still a pretty tough mech and you can punch and kick. There are examples that put lasers on it and stuff. Those can be useful. Swapping the weapons around some, making it more like a Scorpion by taking the LRM off and putting an SRM on. Fine. I think the original design is probably still my favorite. It's just mean. You can usually outrun anything that you can't outfight, and anything that can't outfight you, you can kind of keep up on and keep the pressure on. And as its weapons are going to be immensely dangerous against lighter targets and are still going to be not something to balk at when even assault mechs come on. So yeah, an excellent all-around mech and a great many to go with it. Well, that's it, guys. Thanks for watching as I pulled out all the mediums and showed them to you. Don't worry, as soon as life allows, I'll be getting to the next battle report and the next episode of the Arsenal. Until then, thank you for giving me the chance to entertain you, and I hope you enjoy the battle reps that are to come. Hello, this is Adam with Dream Made Productions. Thank you for watching my content. It really means a lot that you have given me the chance to entertain you. If you would like to support the channel, please visit my Patreon at patreon.com/DreamMadeProductions, linked below. Also below is a link for PayPal, or links if you would like to send crypto, if that's more your thing. Please know any amount that you give will be cherished and used to upgrade equipment and improve the channel. You can also help the channel by subscribing, turning on notifications, liking, commenting, and sharing my channel with anyone you think might be interested. Thank you again for watching, and I hope you enjoy the battle reps that are to come.